My girlfriend of 10 years left me for being an unambitious plumber, but when I discovered her mentor manipulated her to have me for herself, I pretended to fall for her and expose them both, destroying their careers and leaving them begging for forgiveness. I'm 28 years old. I live in a small town in the Midwest, and I own my own plumbing business that, honestly, cost me a ton of sweat and tears to build from scratch. And I need to tell this story because what happened last year basically destroyed me, made me do things I never thought I would do, and in the end, well, I guess it gave me a satisfaction that I still don't know if it was right to feel. But before I get to that, I need to start at the beginning, when I met Mia in sophomore year of high school and thought I had found the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with. Mia and I met when we were like 15 years old, in a history class or something like that. I don't remember exactly how it started, but I do remember that I liked her immediately. She was pretty, smart, had that laugh that made everyone turn around. You know, that kind of person who lights up a place just by being there. We started dating, and it was one of those high school relationships that everyone says won't last, but in our case, it lasted. 10 years, to be exact. 10 years in which I basically built my life around her, and she built hers around her professional ambitions, which never bothered me because I supported her in everything. When we finished high school, Mia wanted to go to college, study English literature because she dreamed of working in the publishing world, like a book editor or something. I, on the other hand, knew that college wasn't for me. My dad was a plumber. My grandfather was a plumber, and I had a knack for it. So I decided to start my own business. It sounds more glamorous than it was, believe me. But the first few years I worked as an employee for other plumbers, saving every penny I could while Mia was in college. I helped her with tuition when I could, with books, with whatever she needed, because that's what couples did, right? You support each other. She studied in a city like 2 hours from here, so we saw each other mainly on weekends, sometimes during the week if I had a job near her campus. Those were tough years. I'm not going to lie, because I missed her all the time, and sometimes I felt kind of lonely in this town while she was there, having all these college experiences that I wasn't part of. But it worked, or so I thought. We talked every day. We made plans for the future. We talked about getting married after she graduated, about having kids eventually, about building a life together here in the town where we grew up. By the time Mia graduated, I already had my business running pretty well. I wasn't a millionaire or anything, but I had 2 employees, a truck with my logo, which he designed myself on a free app. It looked kind of cheap, but it was mine. And enough regular clients to feel like I was finally achieving something. Mia graduated with honors, which didn't surprise me at all because she was always super dedicated and got a job at a publishing house in the city. It wasn't her dream job yet. It was more like editorial, assistant or something, but it was a foot in the door, and she was super excited. That's when she met Jennifer. Jennifer worked in the same department. She was like 30 years old. I mean, a few years older than us. And according to Mia, she was super cool, super experienced, an incredible mentor. At first, I was glad that Mia had someone to guide her in this new world, because I didn't know anything about publishing houses or that corporate environment. Jennifer this, Jennifer that. Mia talked about her all the time. She told me they went out to lunch together, that Jennifer gave her advice on how to navigate office politics, that she had invited her to networking events and stuff like that. Everything seemed normal, or so I thought. But then the comments started. Subtle at first, so subtle that I almost didn't notice them. Mia started mentioning things that Jennifer had said about relationships, about how it was important for couples to have the same level of education and ambition. Or comments about how Jennifer thought it was weird that Mia had to drive 2 hours every time she wanted to see her boyfriend, that it wasn't practical in the long term. Little seeds of doubt planted here and there, disguised as friends' concern. I tried not to give it importance, honestly. I told Mia that every relationship was different, that ours worked because we loved each other, because we had known each other for years, because we had grown up together. She agreed with me, or at least that's what she said, but I could tell that Jennifer's words were stuck in her head spinning around. She started making comments about how maybe I should expand my business to the city, or about how maybe she should look for work here in town to be closer. But then she would dismiss that idea, saying there were no career opportunities here. The distance we had always managed somehow started to feel like a problem. Jennifer also started criticizing specific things about me, always through Mia, obviously, because I had barely met the woman like 2 times in person, like if I didn't understand the stress of Mia's job because I was my own boss. Like, if I didn't have a college degree, then I probably couldn't connect with Mia on an intellectual level. Like if I still lived in the same town where we grew up, then I clearly didn't have ambition. Things like that. Slowly poisoning the image Mia had of me, of us, of everything we had built together for a decade. The worst part is that I could see what was happening, but didn't know how to stop it. Every time I tried to talk to Mia about Jennifer's influence, she got defensive. She told me that Jennifer only wanted what was best for her, that she was her friend, that I was being paranoid or controlling. And maybe she was right. I don't know. Maybe I was being paranoid. But something inside me told me that Jennifer didn't have good intentions. I just couldn't prove it. Things between Mia and me started deteriorating fast after that. Our phone conversations became shorter, more tense. The weekends we spent together, she always seemed distracted, like she was thinking about something else. I tried to plan special things, take her to dinner at nice places, remind her why we worked so well together, but nothing seemed enough. It was like Jennifer had built this image in Mia's mind of what her perfect life should be, and I simply didn't fit in that image. After almost a year of this growing tension, I decided it was time to take the next step. I thought that maybe an official commitment, a marriage proposal, would remind Mia that ours was real, that it was worth fighting for. I saved for months to buy a ring. Nothing super flashy because I'm not a millionaire, but it was nice. A classic solitaire that I knew she would like. I even had it engraved inside with our initials and the date of our first anniversary. I planned a whole special dinner at her favorite restaurant in the city, made a reservation and everything. It was a Friday night. I remember driving the 2 hours to the city feeling nervous, but excited. With the ring in the pocket of my jacket. He almost never wore a jacket, but it was a special occasion. I got to the restaurant early, ordered a glass of wine to calm my nerves, checked for the millionth time that the ring was still there. Mia arrived like 20 minutes late, which wasn't unusual, and when I saw her walk in, I realized something was wrong. She had that expression on her face, tense, uncomfortable, like she'd rather be anywhere else. We sat down, ordered dinner. I tried to make casual conversation, but she barely participated. She answered with monosyllables, moved the food around on her plate without really eating. I was starting to panic internally, thinking that maybe she already knew about the proposal and was nervous, or maybe she'd had a bad day at work. But then, in the middle of dinner, without any preamble, she said, "We need to talk," and we all know those 4 words, never, mean anything good. She told me she had been thinking a lot, that Jennifer had helped her see things clearly. Of course, she mentioned Jennifer. That we were very different now, compared to when we were teenagers. She said she had grown, that she had professional goals that I didn't understand. That the distance between us wasn't just geographical, but also emotional and intellectual. All those words sounded like she had rehearsed them, like someone had put them in her head, and we know who. I asked her if that was really what she felt, or if it was Jennifer talking through her, and that made her angry. She told me to stop blaming Jennifer for her own feelings, that this decision was hers. And then she said the words, I'll never forget. Christopher, I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore, and I think it's better if we go our separate ways. Just like that, 10 years of relationship ended at a dinner where I had an engagement ring in my pocket. I didn't know what to say. Sat there, feeling like someone had emptied me out inside, and all I could do was nod. I paid the bill because obviously I was going to pay, walked her to her car in silence, and watched her leave. I stood there in the restaurant parking lot for I don't know how long, with the ring still in my pocket, trying to process what had just happened. I drove back home that Friday night in a kind of daze. I didn't cry, didn't scream, just drove on autopilot for those 2 hours thinking about all the years we had spent together, about all the plans we had made. When I got to my house, I threw myself on the couch and stayed there, staring at the ceiling until dawn. Saturday passed in a fog. Sunday night, I was starting to feel a bit of anger mixing with the sadness, and without thinking much about it, I opened Instagram. There it was. A story posted by Jennifer, tagging Mia. The two of them at some bar or club, laughing, taking shots, and behind them, clearly visible, was a guy with his arm around Mia's shoulders. The guy was, obviously, handsome in that generic magazine heartthrob way, and Mia looked happy, relaxed, nothing like the tense and uncomfortable person who had been at dinner with me just 2 nights before. The post had a caption that said something like, "Celebrating new beginnings," with champagne glass emojis and hearts. I felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach. Not only had she left me, not only had she ended 10 years of relationship, but apparently she was already with someone else less than 48 hours later. Or maybe she had been with this guy before breaking up with me. I don't know, but the timing was too convenient. And Jennifer there, in the middle of everything, celebrating it, documenting it, probably enjoying every second of having destroyed my relationship. I did what I probably shouldn't have done, but in the moment seemed necessary. I called Mia. She answered after several rings, sounded cheerful, kind of drunk. I asked her about the guy in the photo. She immediately got defensive, told me that what she did was no longer my problem, that we had just broken up, that I had no right to question her. I told her it was interesting how just 2 days ago she had told me she needed space to find herself, and now she was at a bar with another guy. She started yelling at me, telling me I was toxic, controlling, that this was exactly why we had broken up. I said some things I later regretted. She said more hurtful things, and eventually I hung up the phone. That night, I blocked her from everything. Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, her phone number, everything. If she wanted to move on with her life, fine. I was going to move on with mine too. Or at least, that's what I told myself while spending the next few weeks feeling like I had a hole in my chest. The weeks turned into months. I focused on my work, on expanding my business, on keeping busy so I wouldn't think about her. My friends tried to get me out, meet new girls, but I wasn't ready. I still kept the ring in my nightstand drawer, not knowing what to do with it. I couldn't return it because it had been engraved, and selling it felt like admitting a definitive defeat, so it stayed there. Like 3 months after the breakup, I had to have surgery. Nothing super serious, a hernia I had been ignoring for a long time because I hate hospitals and always thought I could handle the pain a little longer. But eventually the pain got so bad that I had no choice. I scheduled the surgery for a Tuesday. Asked my mom to take me because I needed someone to pick me up after the anesthesia. Everything went well. The operation was routine. And I woke up in recovery, feeling that typical post-anesthesia confusion where you're not sure if you're awake or asleep. And there, sitting next to my hospital bed, was Jennifer. Not my mom, not any of my friends, but Jennifer, the person who had systematically destroyed my relationship over the last year. I blinked several times, thinking maybe it was a hallucination from the anesthesia, but no, there she was, as real as life itself, smiling at me with that smile she probably used to fool everyone into thinking she was a good person. She said something like, "Hi, Christopher. I heard you were here and wanted to come see how you were." My brain, still half clouded by anesthesia, couldn't process what was happening. I asked her how she knew I was there, and she said something vague about having mutual friends. Lie, we had no mutual friends. I asked her where my mom was, and she said she had gone to get coffee. The whole situation was super weird, but I was too drugged and sore to fully process the weirdness of it all. Jennifer stayed there for like an hour, talking about anything, being all nice and concerned. She mentioned that she and Mia weren't that close anymore, that there had been differences between them, without giving details. She said she had always thought I was a good guy, that Mia had made a mistake leaving me, all. This while I was lying there feeling like crap, barely able to keep my eyes open. Eventually my mom came back, clearly surprised to see Jennifer there, and Jennifer said goodbye, saying she hoped I recovered soon. The next few days, while I was recovering at home, I started getting messages from Jennifer. First asking how I was, then casual conversation, then starting to flirt in a not-so-subtle way. And that's when everything clicked in my brain, still half dulled by painkillers. Jennifer hadn't sabotaged my relationship with Mia because she thought we were incompatible, or because she genuinely wanted to help Mia find herself. She had done it because she wanted me for herself. All this time, she had been planning this. I thought about all the times we had met in person, only a couple of times when I picked up Mia from work, or when Mia organized some gathering and Jennifer was there. I remembered how Jennifer always seemed to pay me too much attention, how her eyes stayed on me a little longer than normal, how she touched my arm when we talked in a way that, at the time, I thought was just her being friendly, but that now, in retrospect, was obviously flirtatious. She had wanted to get rid of Mia from the beginning, to have a clear field with me. And the sick part is that it worked. She destroyed a 10-year relationship, manipulated my girlfriend until she convinced her I wasn't enough for her, probably even introduced her to the guy in the Instagram photo as a better option, all so she could eventually approach me without the complication of me being in a relationship. The level of manipulation and planning was almost impressive in its evil. At that moment, lying in my bed recovering from surgery, I made a decision. If Jennifer had played with me, with Mia, with our feelings and our lives as if we were pieces on her personal board, then I could play too. And this time I was going to win. I started responding to her messages. Not too enthusiastic at first, just enough to keep her interest. I thanked her for visiting me at the hospital, told her it had been a nice gesture. She immediately hooked on, started sending me messages every day. I played hard to get. Sometimes I'd respond quickly. Sometimes I'd take hours. I told her I was still processing the Mia thing, that I didn't know if I was ready for something new. All lies. I knew exactly what I was doing. A couple of weeks went by like this. Jennifer started being more aggressive in her advances. She invited me out. I told her we should meet in casual places first because I didn't feel ready for something that looked like an official date. We met for coffee, then for lunch, then for dinner. During all this time, she talked about herself, about her work, about how hard it was to find someone real in the city. She barely mentioned Mia, and when she did, it was in a negative way, saying things like, Mia had always been kind of immature, that she had made impulsive decisions. The hypocrisy was disgusting, but I just nodded and smiled. After like a month of this, I raised the level. I started flirting more openly, hinting that maybe I was ready to try something new. Jennifer practically jumped at the opportunity. We had our first official date, where she made it very clear she wanted me, physically speaking. I played the role of the guy who was still a bit hurt, but willing to try to move forward. That night, we ended up at her apartment. I'm not going to go into details about that because it's not relevant, and it's also not something I'm particularly proud of. But let's say I gave her exactly what she wanted. I made her feel like she was special, like she had finally won what she had been chasing all this time. Afterwards, while she slept, I was lying there staring at the ceiling of her bedroom, thinking about how twisted all this was, but also feeling, I don't know, something like justified. She had deliberately destroyed something beautiful, and now I was going to teach her what it felt like. The next few weeks were more of the same. I acted like the perfect boyfriend, attentive, caring, everything she clearly needed to feel validated. She introduced me to her friends, who were also pretty unbearable, by the way, took me to events at her work, basically displayed me as her new trophy. All the time I was collecting evidence, screenshots of her messages, photos she posted of us, voice messages where she declared her feelings. I saved it all. Then, one day, about 2 months after we started this, I just disappeared. I blocked her from everything just like I had done with Mia. I didn't respond to calls, didn't answer messages, I just vanished. And as expected, she started going crazy. The messages started coming, first confused, then worried, then angry, then desperate. She sent me messages from different numbers when she realized I had blocked her. She sent me emails. She even showed up one day at my business, but I wasn't there, and my employees told her they didn't know when I'd be back. For 2 weeks, I let her despair, let her feel that anxiety of not knowing what happened, of wondering if she had done something wrong, of feeling rejected and confused. It was exactly the same thing I had felt when Mia left me, multiplied because Jennifer had invested so much effort in getting me that my sudden disappearance must have hurt her twice as much. After those 2 weeks, when I calculated she had reached her maximum point of desperation, I compiled everything. All the screenshots of her most recent desperate messages, The captures where she told me how much she loved me, the photos of us together, the voice messages where she practically begged me to talk to her. I organized it all in a well-ordered PDF file, chronological, impossible to misinterpret, and I sent it all to Mia. I didn't write anything, just attached the file with a simple title, "Thought you should see this." I knew Mia still had my email because I never blocked each other from there, and I knew her curiosity wouldn't let her ignore a message from me after months of total silence. I didn't have to wait long for the inevitable to happen. 2 days later, my mom called me saying she had heard from someone who knew someone who worked at the publishing house that there had been an incident there. Apparently, Mia had confronted Jennifer in the middle of the office, yelling at her about betrayal and manipulation, and things had escalated to the physical. I don't know who threw the first punch, but according to the gossip that reached me, both ended up with consequences. Mia with a split lip, and Jennifer with scratches on her face. Human Resources fired them both that same day. The public confrontation at their workplace, the scandal, the loss of the job that had mattered so much to Mia, all of that was more than I had honestly anticipated. My plan had been simple: show Mia who her friend really was, hurt them both like they had hurt to me. But the fact that they both lost their jobs and their fight became gossip throughout the publishing house. That was a bonus I hadn't planned but didn't feel bad about either. A week later, Mia showed up at my door. She looked terrible, honestly. Red eyes from crying, wrinkled clothes. She still had a mark on her lip from the fight. She told me we needed to talk, that she had been an idiot, that Jennifer had lied to her about everything, that she finally saw the truth. She begged me to forgive her, to give her another chance, that she was willing to move to town, to leave the city, to do whatever was necessary to get me back. Part of me, a small part, felt sorry for her. But the bigger part, the part that had been carrying the pain of that breakup for months, that had to see her photo with another guy just days after she told me she didn't love me anymore, that part felt nothing but cold satisfaction. I told her exactly what she had told me at that dinner. "Mia, I loved you a lot, but I don't feel the same anymore, and I think it's better if you go your way." I even used the same words to make it hurt more. She cried, tried to convince me, told me she loved me, that she had always loved me, that Jennifer had manipulated and confused her. I told her that maybe that was true, but that in the end, she had made her own decisions, had chosen to believe Jennifer over believing me, had chosen to end 10 years of relationship over advice from someone she had known for less than a year. I told her that her lack of judgment wasn't something I could forgive so easily. I closed the door in her face while she kept crying on my porch. The next day, Jennifer also showed up. She came with a different attitude, angry, but also pleading. She told me I had used her, that I had played with her feelings, that I was a bastard. I asked her if she didn't find it ironic that she would tell me that, considering what she had done to my relationship with Mia, she tried to justify herself, saying she had only tried to help Mia see that I wasn't right for her, still with those lies after everything. I told her I knew the truth, that from the beginning she had wanted me for herself and had deliberately destroyed something good just to get what she wanted. She didn't deny it, just stood there. And eventually, I told her to leave and never come back. The following months were weird. I felt, I don't know, empty, but also kind of vindicated. I had achieved what I set out to do. I had made them both feel a fraction of the pain they had caused me. But I didn't feel completely good about it either, because at the end of the day, I had also become someone manipulative and calculating, and that wasn't really the person I wanted to be. I was in a kind of emotional limbo, where I understood why I had done what I did, but also questioned whether it had really been worth it. My business kept growing, which was good because I needed to focus on something productive. I hired more employees, bought a second truck, started taking bigger jobs in nearby cities. Work kept me busy, and that was exactly what I needed. My friends noticed I was different. Quieter, maybe, more cynical, definitely, but eventually I started feeling more like myself again, or at least an older and less naive version of myself. Like 6 months after all the drama, I met Zoe. She had hired my business to fix a plumbing problem in the house she had just bought here in town. She was an elementary school teacher, had moved from another state to take a job here, and when I arrived to do the repair, she greeted me with homemade lemonade and a genuine smile. We started talking while I worked, and I discovered it was easy to talk to her, that she made me laugh, that there was no drama or manipulation or mind games, just an honest person being herself. I asked for her number before leaving that day, and she gave it to me without playing hard to get. We started going out casually, no rush, no pressure. She knew I was. Coming from a complicated relationship, he didn't give her all the twisted details, but I gave her the general version, and she didn't pressure me for anything more than I was ready to give. We simply enjoyed spending time together. And little by little, I realized that this was what relationships were supposed to be. Simple, honest, without the need for hidden agendas or manipulation. Zoe never made me feel like I had to be someone different or better than who I was. She appreciated my work, thought it was admirable that I had built a business from scratch, never made me feel less for not having a college degree. She came to see me work sometimes when she had free time, brought lunch for me and my employees, met my family, and got along great with my mom. Everything was so refreshingly normal that at first it even seemed suspicious to me because I was used to drama. Like 2 months ago, we were having dinner at her house, and she asked me what was in that drawer in my nightstand, that I always kept locked. She had noticed because once I had sent her to look for something in my bedroom, and she had accidentally tried to open that drawer. I told her the truth, that it was an engagement ring I had bought for my ex, that I never got to give her, and that I didn't know what to do with it. I expected her to feel weird about it, but she just told me that maybe it was time to sell it or do something with it. So the next week I sold it. I didn't recover everything I had paid for it, but I recovered something, and honestly the money didn't matter as much as the feeling of finally closing that chapter. I used the money to buy Zoe a gift. Nothing related to commitment or anything. Just some earrings I had seen that she liked at a jewelry store. When I gave them to her, she asked where I had gotten the money, and I told her the truth. She got emotional to tears. Not because of the earrings, but because she understood what that gesture of letting go of the past meant. Mia tried to contact me a few more times during this year, occasional messages from unknown numbers that I ignored or blocked. I learned from mutual acquaintances that she had gotten another job at a different publishing house in another city, that she was trying to rebuild her career. Part of me hopes she does well, honestly. I don't hate her, really. I just feel nothing. 10 years of shared history reduced to complete indifference. It's almost sad when I think about it that way. I never heard anything directly from Jennifer again, but a few months ago my mom told me that apparently she had moved out of state. I don't know if it was because of the embarrassment of what happened at the publishing house or simply because she wanted to start over somewhere else, but either way she's out of my life and that's all that matters. Today I'm 28 years old. My business keeps growing. I have a relationship with someone who genuinely appreciates me for who I am, and overall I'm in a better place than I was a year ago. I still think sometimes about everything that happened, about the decisions I made, about whether I really did the right thing by taking revenge the way I did. I don't have a clear answer for that. I know what I did was wrong on many levels, that I lowered myself to using the same manipulative tactics that had hurt me so much. But I also know that at that moment I felt I had no other choice, that I needed to do something to recover even a little bit of control over a situation that had left me completely destroyed. I guess in the end, the justice I sought didn't bring me the peace I thought it would. What brought me peace was time, hard work on myself and on my business, and finding someone who reminds me that not all people are manipulative or have hidden agendas. Zoe asked me recently if I would ever tell her the full story of what happened with Mia and Jennifer. All the twisted details I omitted when I told her. The summarized version. I told her that someday, maybe, when I'm ready to talk about that part of my life without it weighing on me so much. For now, it's enough that she knows I went through something difficult, that I made questionable decisions, but that I came out the other side trying to be a better person than I was during those dark months.